Welcome. Thanks for coming. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Vicki Pratt, and I am the president of Thrive Economic Development and the Jefferson County Economic Development Consortium. In the 18 months since I've been running these organizations, the one consistent message that I've heard from all businesses that I visited, large, small, all over Jefferson and Dodge counties, is we need workers. Specifically, I've heard that there are no workers or that no one wants to work in manufacturing. Hopefully the results that you hear today are going to put those rumors to rest and give you very useful information that will help you recruit the workers that you need. As a very quick background, Thrive Economic Development is a public-private partnership that delivers economic development programs and services in both Dodge and Jefferson counties. The partnership has only been in place for 1 year. The JCEDC, the Jefferson County Economic Development Consortium, has been in place for over 10 years. As your local economic development professional, I will continue to work to ensure that we deliver solutions to help you stay and grow in place. The labor availability analysis is such a solution to the we have no one to hire problem. The JCEDC agreed to provide a labor shed study for the city of Jefferson as part of their grant from the Economic Development Administration to complete an economic development adjustment strategy following the closure of the Tyson plant across the river over there. When I came on board, I recommended instead that we complete a full-blown labor availability analysis that was specific to the largest industry sector in our two-county area, which is manufacturing. We used an RFP process and ultimately decided to contract with the Docking Institute to complete this study. The Docking Institute has completed hundreds of these studies across America. I want to make sure that I thank the entities that supported the completion of this study. So you've seen some of these names on the loop, but I want to thank the City of Jefferson, the JCEDC, the Dodge County SHRM chapter, the WEDC, and of course all of our Thrive investors. Now it's my opportunity and privilege to introduce Mike Walker to you. Mike is the Executive Director of the Docking Institute for Public Affairs at Fort Hays State University in Fort Hays, Kansas. He's an instructor in the Department of Sociology at the university. He's been with the Institute since 2000 and became its director in 2017. His background is designing research projects, including and involving survey and focus group research, strategic planning, programming, assessment. He's been the lead researcher on over 100 labor and employment studies in Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and now in Wisconsin. He belongs to lots of different societies. He told me I didn't have to tell you all these things, but suffice it to say, he's very, very well connected in everything from the Rural Sociology Society to the Population Association of America, in addition to the fact that he sits on the school board. His prior background includes everything from ethnographic and survey research to an internship in DC and service in the U.S. Army, for which we thank you, sir. He regularly teaches urban and rural sociology, community theory and development, social demography, research methods, environmental sociology. He's just a very bright guy. He received his master's in sociology from Utah State University and is currently pursuing a doctorate at Kansas State University. So let me introduce to you Mike Walker of the Docking Institute.
I'm not coming up the center aisle for dramatic purposes.
Well, the only other thing I was going to tell you is if you look at these little green sheets here, the study, the executive summary of the 3 studies, because we did one for Jefferson, one for Dodge, and then we did a combined. So the executive summaries are on our website, and then you can follow the directions there to email us to get the full studies, because they're thick, they're deep, it's a lot of data. Mike's going to talk about that data.
Okay, thank you.
And now I have.
Well, thank you for inviting me to come up today. And we took a little bit of a tour of the city between the first presentation and this one. Ate up a pine cone. That's it, right?
Pine cone.
It's a real Wisconsin food. It's very good. But again, thank you for inviting me up here to provide some information about our labor study approach and the data that we gathered from your what we call labor basin. We start off with, what I'm going to do is provide quite a bit of information about why we do what we do and how it differs from, say, a labor shed analysis. And then provide information for your labor basin, as I mentioned before. So when we developed this approach, this available labor pool study, we talked to a lot of economic developers and Chamber of Commerce folks and did some brainstorming ourselves. Thought, what do people want to know? And you see a list of questions. And obviously things like desired wages, obviously things like commute time, benefits, different skill sets people might have, underemployment, which we didn't look at this time because we focused on manufacturing. But these kind of issues, what is important for an employer to know, what's important for an economic developer to know so they can provide this information to the site selectors, etc. So then after sort of getting an idea of what we wanted to ask about, we focused on the location and the population. What I mean by that is we can gather a lot of information from secondary sources, the U.S. Census, Bureau of Labor Statistics, these kind of things, which is good, solid information, but it becomes dated rather quickly. So we decided that survey research is the way to go to gather information from folks. We can also, so we gather that information in a timely manner, and we can also highlight the geographic location that people live in to survey, as opposed to all data, data from everyone in the county, or representing everyone in the county, or everyone in the state. So the first thing we do when we're talking to a client is determine the region. And obviously we have two major counties in the area that we're focused on, Dodge and of course Jefferson. And it's reasonable to assume that people commute to work within those counties and from outside counties into the area. So it makes sense to say, okay, we have Dodge County, we have Jefferson County, and let's add in the adjacent counties. And that makes sense as well. And sometimes we'll even go beyond the immediately adjacent county if necessary. Or in this case, we will also trim it down a bit depending on the situation. So for example, well, you know this, obviously you're in the middle of two large population areas. So we have Madison on one side and Milwaukee, Waukesha on the other side. Waukesha. It was Waukesha. I was going to make a joke out of it, and I actually made a joke. Okay. And then some to the south and to the north. So it gets a bit complex here, but would it be reasonable to include everyone from all of those counties in the labor basin for, say, Jefferson County? Our assumption is probably not, because those folks to the west of Madison have a lot of employers to choose from in Madison. Does that make sense? And also with Milwaukee. So can't do this very well from this angle, but you see that the shaded in area, the sort of cream colored area, that's what we determined to be the labor basin for the entire region. And then I'll talk about our base. So basically we started off with the central Wisconsin labor region. These 10 counties and portions of those counties in many cases makes up the entire central Wisconsin labor region in the colony. Then we gathered the information through survey research, and then we took that data and split it into two parts, basically. We have the Dodge County labor basin, which would be 8 counties, so minus the 2 on the bottom. And then, of course, we have the Jefferson County labor basin, which is 8 counties minus the 2 on top. And Then we run our survey. We survey a random sample of folks in the labor basin using landlines and telephone numbers, landline numbers and telephone numbers. We gather information from our survey, and within the survey, we ask people if they are currently looking for work, and if not, are they interested in a new job opportunity, given the right opportunities. Potato dumpling soup is made me tired. See, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to get to me. So again, we start off with what geographic area are we looking at, and then we determine from the survey who is in the what we call the available labor pool. And again, that available labor pool, I have sort of a theoretical model here. We take the civilian labor force, which we get from the Census Bureau, right? Civilian labor force includes those folks that are working and those folks that are officially unemployed, meaning they looked for work in the past 4 weeks. Those are good numbers to start with. But we are missing folks that have not looked for work in the past 4 weeks, so we call those discouraged workers, homemakers, full-time students, retired individuals, folks that may be in the military but getting out soon. All of those folks are missed by the civilian labor force numbers. So we add those to the mix, and so therefore we take the civilian labor force and expand it out to say, okay, let's look at even more people that are than just in the civilian labor force. And then we restrict it to what we call the available labor pool by removing those folks from the, again, this is sort of a theoretical model, removing those folks that indicate to us that they are not looking for work or available. So we expand from the civilian labor force and then we can contract it greatly. So basically, we end up with those folks in the labor basin, 18 years of age and older, that are looking for work or available for work. Now, we realize some people work that are younger than 18, but we only survey folks that are 18 years old, so we have 18 and above is the definition. Now, those people that really love numbers and want to know actually how we did the math here, this might help you. It doesn't, I'm sorry. But again, we do have civilian labor force numbers from the Census Bureau. From our survey research, the first question of the survey is, are you currently working full-time? Working part-time? Are you a full-time student? Are you a homemaker? Are you retired? Are you disabled? I'm missing something in there. But we ordered it that way so that we pick up retired people that may be working part-time already. So they're not considered retired. They're considered part-timers or full-timers if they're working. So we work our way down. Then we have a good set of, we understand how many are working, full-time or part-time, and how many are not working. Then we ask them later in the survey, again, if they're looking for work, if they're interested in a new job, given the right opportunities. So then we have a couple of different variables to work with. And so those folks that are not working currently, but available for work or looking for work, we take those numbers, we divide those by the entire sample of respondents, take that proportion, multiply it by the number of people that are working age, so 18 to 65. Then we come up with what we call the expanded or adjusted civilian labor force. Then we multiply that by the proportion of people in the survey that indicate to us that they are available for work. Meaning, a lot of folks that are in the data set are not available. So we ask them what they're doing, we ask them some other questions, we ask them, are you looking for work? No. Interested in a new job? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. You ask a couple demographic questions. Thank you very much for your time. We move on. So a good portion of those folks that we survey aren't available, which does make some sense because not everyone is looking or available for work. And here's a graph, bar chart of the folks I'm talking about. So the lighter shaded bar are all those folks that indicate to us they did complete the survey. They started the survey, told us what they do, and they told us they're not looking or not available. So they would be the not available group on the end. And we see that about 48.5%, so not quite half, indicated to us they're not available, meaning they're not looking or interested. The remainder are what we call the available labor pool. Not surprisingly, I don't think, most of the folks in the available labor pool are employed and interested in a new job. Meaning they're not looking, but they may be interested in a new job given the right opportunity. Which makes sense because most employers get employees from the workforce. The other three columns moving my way include people that are employed and looking, about 14%. The non-employed, again, that's not just technically unemployed people, it's anybody not working outside the home. Non-employed and interested, about 18%, and non-employed and looking for work, actively looking for work, about 6%. Now that pattern holds is a pretty standard pattern from what I see from different labor studies. Sometimes these two numbers here will fluctuate, percentages will fluctuate a little bit. But this is always the largest column. Again, about half of the survey respondents aren't available, and then this is the next largest column, and then we kind of. Now, I've always thought this is kind of interesting. The smallest column is always the non-employed and looking for work, which I sort of thought if I wasn't employed, I'd be looking instead of just interested, but maybe that's just me. But anyway, that's the smallest group. Okay. So once we have, okay, that is information I just provided to you was the entire region, again, the 10-county area. Now I'm going to provide information very similar at the start for the Jefferson County labor basin. And again, we remove the two top counties up here. Right. So the Jefferson County is in the middle, and we have a nice labor basin around it. And remember, the basin actually includes the cream-colored areas there. So this white area was not surveyed. This was not, we did not survey people down here. Oh, and to specify, we do this by zip code in these areas. Here, in these two counties, we just surveyed random sample of everybody in the county. And up here too. But in these counties, we surveyed random sample of folks in specific zip codes. That's the basin, the labor basin. Here's the available labor pool for your basin. The percentages are very similar to the region as a whole, which is probably not too surprising, right? But there are some fluctuations there. Next slide would be the location of the available labor pool. And again, it's different than, say, everyone working, or right? The available labor pool includes people that are either looking or, either working or not working, but indicate to us that they are actually available for work. And there's two categories there: looking for work actively or interested in a new job. So it's not just a different bit of an animal than maybe a labor shed study. So here we have location by zip code of residence for all the people that indicated to us that they are in the available labor pool, or they are available for work. Not surprising, I would imagine that a lot of the concentrations of folks are in the more highly populated areas. Why? Because we've got more people in them where they live, right? So it does show some concentrations there, but it does. I think the map does help you sort of highlight where people that indicate they are available for work are located. Purple is higher concentration, and yellow is less high. Again, these percentages aren't huge though, which tells me that the labor basin, the available labor pool, is pretty well spread across the labor basin. The highest grouping is 3% and above, so that tells me that's pretty well spread across. If it were 15 and above, oh, okay, in one zip code, and that tells you that there's a real concentration there of folks. But again, this helps a little bit, but I realize what this tells me is that it's spread across the entire labor basin. The available labor pool is spread across the entire labor basin pretty well, which is something to, I think actually is kind of a good thing might be harder to pinpoint where people live, but it does tell you that you can find workers across the entire basin. Okay, now we have some information from the survey about the available labor pool in Jefferson County. The age range was 18 years old to 70, meaning, well, of course 18, we couldn't go any lower than 18, and up to 70. So that means there was at least one 70-year-old, probably more, indicating that they were looking for work or available for work. The mean and median is about 48 years old and 49 years old, so that tells you that, of course, most folks are around those numbers. Few folks at their upper end. The ratio of females to males, not quite 50% each. 54% male, 46% female. Yep. On a side note, these numbers, about 5 or 6 years ago, we started including cell phone numbers in our samples. Prior to that, we wanted to, but prior to that, the lists were not good enough. Now we're using a combination of landlines and cell phones numbers, and we see the percentage of males increasing in our samples. And what does that tell you? It tells you that probably in the past, and we have research to back this up, that most often in landline houses, the female answers the telephone. And even though when we get the person on the telephone, we explain who we are, we do ask for the person in the household the adult in the household who's had the most recent birthday. Why would we ask that? Because we want to get a random sample of adults, right? Even though we would do that, we would still get more females completing the survey. So in the past, we would have an artificially higher number of females doing this survey. Well, I say artificially. We would overrepresent females in the survey simply because they were the ones doing the surveys, because they're the ones picking up the phones. Now with cell phones, we have a much more even split. And so I'm actually a little bit, this isn't shocking or surprising, but it's a little bit interesting. We have more than 50% males. Again, it's close to 50, so we're good. Just usually I see 51 female, 51, 49, 51, whatever. But so a little more males. Okay, which actually may make some sense because I know there's a lot of manufacturing going on here, and perhaps that's still a more male-dominated industry, so it probably makes some sense that there's more males in the available pool. Okay, we also asked about education levels, and you see the numbers here. What I want to do is probably highlight on the cumulative percents here. We have there, of course, the levels across here and the percentages. And these percentages here are of survey respondents, and then we extrapolate to the larger numbers here, right? So I hope it's clear to everybody we did not actually survey 238,000 people. We surveyed about 2,000 people and extrapolated to these numbers here. But what I think is important to do is focus on the cumulative percentages here. So for example, 48% have at least a bachelor's degree. So 48% of the available labor pool members have at least a bachelor's degree. 80% have at least an associate's. And almost all, 98.7% have at least a high school diploma. So it tells me that you do have a good, well-educated workforce. 48% with bachelor's degrees is, I should say available, is a good number. And some labor basins a little more, some labor basins a little bit less, but that's a good solid percentage for folks with at least bachelor's degrees. Okay, and we also asked the question, if you speak Spanish, and then if you do, how much you do speak. And this percentage is probably a little higher about more than a quarter. I'm not sure why I thought that would be a little bit lower, but about a quarter of the folks, more than a quarter of the folks indicated they do speak Spanish. But clearly, the vast majority say they only speak a little bit, which makes some sense. And so we have almost 80%. So I'm not suggesting we rush out and say we have a bilingual available labor pool, but at least some people have some knowledge about Spanish. Okay, now, In the survey, we, of course, ask what people currently do, and we ask that in two ways. First way is current job. What's the current title of your job? They give us an response, we type it in the computer. Can you give us 2 or 3 main duties of your job? We type those responses in. We do this because there's some occupations that are kind of vague, like manager, okay? Could be a manager of a department store, could be a manager of a manufacturing plant, could be someone who manages a couple people. So when we actually ask that question, we follow up with the title of your job with 2 or 3 main duties. And then I will go through and look at every line of code and categorize folks into one of 30-ish categories. Another would be accountant. Yes, that actually may be an accountant, but sometimes people will say they're an accountant, when they may actually do more bookkeeping. Or if we just ask the question, are you a nurse? Which you ask, what do you do? I'm a nurse. Okay, what kind of things do you do? Sometimes people use the word nurse to include things like CNA and things like that, which is fine, but for our purposes, we want to differentiate those different kind of groups of people. So anyway, all that information, collapse it down to about 30 categories, and then we collapse it into different groups. So here we have major occupational categories, and we have folks that are classified as general laborers and deliverers for this graph kind of put together. And then we work our way down. So we have a couple categories here of what we call general laborers. And we can, discuss the details and why I classified some groups in some areas, but basically it's not bad, I don't think. So yeah, general labor here. Then we have high-skilled labor here, including these 2 categories. And then we have service sector employees here with these categories, and then professional sector with these categories, and then non-working folks down here. And so this table actually tells you a whole bunch of stuff. You have not only the percentage of people in these individual groups here, well, say individual groups, these are actually categories too, right? But grouped together. And we also have the percentage of folks in what we were calling the general labor sector. We also have information about how many years on the job. So we asked the question, if they're working, title of your job, 2 or 3 main duties of your job, how long have you performed this job, in a nutshell? And they give us the number of years. So I present here mean and median. So if you understand, okay, mean and median here, with a mean of 12 and a median of 7, that tells me that there's a few people pulling this mean up, right? And most folks are probably around 70. So it kind of gives you an idea of what type of people you have working for you, working in the area of different categories. Then the little pie chart on the bottom is the same information minus the non-employed folks. So the percentages will be different, but the numbers should be the same. Oh, I forgot to mention the non-employed group of 24.5%. I've seen that number creep up over the years. I've been doing this for 18 years or so. And over time, I've seen that percentage increase from study to study. I think it's just an aging population. And then also, the population gets older. And in some labor basins, we have more of an aging population than other areas, so sometimes that number is a bit higher. But about a quarter of the folks in the available labor pool indicate that they are homemakers, full-time students, which actually isn't an aging population, but unemployed folks, and retired folks. A large number of folks in the study are currently retired. Okay. Now, we also ask things in the study. You'll also see questions about college or education levels. So one of the questions in the demographics is level of education, and for those folks that indicate that they have some college experience or more, we ask them what they studied in college, and so we code those into different categories, and so you'll see that the largest percentage, 27%, indicate they studied business or economics. Next group would be biological sciences and health, which is actually kind of interesting. I realize down here, the percentages they're not that dramatic, right? But typically in other labor basin areas, I should say, biological sciences and health might be a little bit lower than some of these other categories here. Just a few percentage points off, so I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it, but we do seem to have probably more, I'd say, nursing students and whatnot here than maybe some other places. I'm not sure. Okay, then we ask if they've attended community college or are currently in community college. Yes, no, percentages are there. Those folks that say yes, we ask them the area of study that they're involved in, and so we have, let's come around here a little bit. We do have the open-ended responses here classified into different bar chart categories. Again, these were closed-ended. We asked them what their major was, and we picked the college for them, basically. So it's not open-ended, but they give us the answer. Here we ask, if they say yes, we type in the responses that they gave. And then we collapse those into categories here. Okay, this is not too uncommon here. Office skills and business related, that's usually a good percentage of folks. Nursing or health related, not bad, it's usually high. Things that jumped out at me as different this time around was the number of folks that indicated something that I classified as highly skilled labor. So welding, manufacturing, high skilled manufacturing. Oh, we have manufacturing down here. Those kind of issues. Usually we don't get as many folks indicating higher skills here than I see this time around. And we had quite a number of folks indicating manufacturing technology. And again, these are open-ended responses. We asked them what they're studying. We had a number of folks indicating something like manufacturing technology. So I classified those here, which I think is kind of interesting for this area. But again, probably more manufacturing type jobs in this area that I'm familiar with in Kansas and some places in Missouri. And then we go on down to some of the things I usually see, trucking or commercial driver's license training, those are usually in there, culinary arts. But this is, I think, interesting that we had a number of people indicating manufacturing and high school labor in this basin here. And we'll move on. Okay, so again, another way to look at, okay, again, from the open-ended responses, current title of your job, 2 or 3 main duties of your job, we classified them into about 30 categories. Later on in the survey, we asked them to provide a job they had in the past. Specifically, could you name us a job you had in the past? They give it to us, and we use the same coding scheme to code them there. So a little bit different than before. Same people, right? Same jobs, but just classified in different ways. Here I focused on things like working with your hands, working with people, working with numbers, working with technology, providing health services, education services, and creative arts. So then coded them in different categories here, which are sort of working with hands type jobs and working with people type jobs. So again, it shows the, well, it doesn't show percentages. What I did then is just show the extrapolated number of folks in these different categories. And then this category here, column here is the previous worker training. So it goes across and shows how many folks are previously trained in that area. And then a total. Now it's maybe a little confusing, total number, simply current plus previous. But of course, we don't want to double count anybody. As a matter of fact, if somebody indicated to us that they currently work in construction, and we ask about a previous job, they say construction, we don't include that person in the previous job, right? We don't want to double count that way. We also want to be careful of double counting here. I do show a total number here, but we have to remember that someone can't really do 2 jobs. Meaning, somebody may be a construction worker right now, but in the past, they worked on the farm. Well, they can't do both. So what's really important, I think, is to look at numbers here and here, and this kind of gives you a ballpark idea of how many people are in the area with that experience, which may be kind of useful. Oh, and also, this is only This is different too because it's only employed folks, not the column on current employment, obviously current employment. The column on previous employment does include currently unemployed people. Misspoke there a minute ago. The current employment is only obviously working folks. Anyway, just a different way of looking at the numbers that we have, and I hope that it's useful. These different ways of looking at these numbers are useful to you. This is the same thing you just saw on the previous slide, but it's a stacked bar chart, and might kind of give you some indication of who you have working for you. Typically, the general customer service category is on top. Both these are ordered by number, obviously. So most are general customer service. That's very common. There's currently about 20,000 people in the labor basin doing customer service type work, and about 37, 38 that have done that in the past. That makes sense. We all know that customer service is a big part of our economy nowadays. And then we move on down to office management. Not terribly surprising to me. It's pretty common. Construction, cleaning, and manual labor. Again, a lot of folks work in that area. Now, manufacturing and assembly kind of jumped out at me, being from Kansas and not from Wisconsin and not from this area, as, wow, that's number 4. So that's cool. We have quite a number of folks in that area working in manufacturing and assembly. About 8,400 folks currently and 12,600 previously. So you have a good chunk of people, a good base of people that have done manufacturing and assembly in the past. Then we work our way down to some jobs are like very specific, researcher and analyst, advanced medical practitioner. Not too many folks have done that in the past, but it's probably not too surprising because if you're in that field, you probably did it, you probably are currently doing it. Okay, next slide would be another way of asking about employment. These are closed-ended questions. The previous questions were type of your job, what do you do currently? We coded them into categories. This set of questions are, do you have training or experience, for the first one, doing data entry and using the telephone? Okay, typically a call center type job or a telemarketing type job. The next one, do you have training or experience working in a professional office environment? Do you have training or experience working in warehousing or distribution? And then you have training or experience in manufacturing or processing. So what we do, the blue column is, do you have experience? Right? Someone tells us, we ask the question, do you have experience doing data entry and using telephone? Yes or no? Fine. The next question, would you take a job in that field? Yes or no? We move to the professional office environment. So these are standalone, yes, no, yes, no. Doesn't matter if they have it before or not, just ask them. So we, again, yes, no, data entry, yes, no, professional office environment, yes, no, warehousing, yes, no, manufacturing. Now on this graph and in the table, in the report, I did some math, or you can punch some numbers afterwards. So again, the blue column is do you have experience? The red column is would you take a job? The green column indicates that they have both. They have experience and they would take the job again. And the fourth little column there, the purple one, is have experience and will take a job and will live within the necessary commute time, which I'll explain in a little while, but basically it's a sort of a subset of the available, which is why it's so small. But I think this tells you here that you have a lot of people who have done data entry and telephone, in telephone. Fewer people want to do that. Fewer people want to do that job. Fewer people have that job and want to do it. Same with professional office environment. A lot of people have experience or training doing that. Fewer want to do that job. Fewer still, obviously, have that job and want to do it again. But then when you get to warehousing and manufacturing, there, we see more people are willing to take a job in that field than actually have experience of doing so. So for example, let's talk about manufacturing. 96,853 extrapolated from the sample indicate they have experience in that field. But almost 114,000 folks indicate they would be willing to work in that field. And I'll show you some information later in the report, in the PowerPoint, that focus on this group of folks, the 114,000 folks that indicate they are willing to take a job in manufacturing. Now, these numbers look a lot larger than before. We were looking at specifically what do you do what do you currently do? I am classifying you as a maintenance worker, or I'm classifying you as a manufacturing worker. Thank you very much. Moving on. Those numbers are smaller, in the thousands, right? These numbers are much larger because they're different questions. When we ask someone specifically what they do, they give us one job answer. And we classify that into a job and then maybe a category. Here, do you have any experience or any training in these fields? And then would you take a job in this field? So a much more general question. You might want to think of these as like 50,000 foot type view questions, because they're specific enough to a specific to a job, type of job, but not specific to a history of the individual, like right now, like I'm currently doing this job. That makes sense. But they're more broad in some ways, if you will. So we have these numbers are much higher than the other chart, even though in some cases they're talking about very similar type of issues. Okay, for those folks that indicate they have experience in warehousing and experience in manufacturing, we follow up with some other questions. And we did this because somebody can say, yes, I have experience working in a warehouse or distribution, but does that mean they have actual experience moving materials and loading trucks, or were they working in the sales office, or were they working in maintenance? Which is good to know, but might not be the kind of distribution experience you're thinking about. So we added some questions here. We have, for the folks indicating experience in warehousing, we have questions about moving materials, loading trucks. Again, I mentioned before, inventory, administration, management, and other. About 36%, more than a third anyway, indicated that they have actual moving material experience. Which tells you there about a third of the people indicating that they actually worked in warehousing and distribution before, or have training, did the real moving. Now, for manufacturing, we focused a lot of the study on manufacturing. So we expanded the options here. What kind of experience have you had in manufacturing? We expanded the options to some other. We have production work, post-production work, shipping and receiving, product sales, other, and then pre-production work. And we see here that 50% of the folks indicating to us they have previously worked in manufacturing and processing actually have experience doing the production work. 9% have post-production experience. 14% on the bottom there, you have pre-production experience. So again, it kind of provides you some information about what type of folks are out there that indicate they have manufacturing experience. What kind of experience is that? Then we also followed up with the industry experience. So we asked about whether, again, those folks that indicate they have manufacturing experience of any kind, did you work in metallic manufacturing, non-metallic manufacturing, or food and beverage packaging and processing? And then we threw the other option in just as a catch-all, and about 11% said other, so we probably could have had another option. Metallic manufacturing, about 40%, almost 30% non-metallic, and then 20% indicate that they have experience working in a food or beverage packaging and manufacturing. So, and then, again, more information about the workers that indicate that they have experience in manufacturing. Now, some real important stuff for the study is considerations for employment. So, here we ask about desired wage, about willingness to commute. How many minutes are you willing to commute for a job? Are you willing to change your fields of employment for a new job? Will you work weekends, second shift, rotating shift, third shift, etc.? And remember, this is of the entire available labor pool. So this graph here shows everybody that indicated to us that they are looking for work or available. Okay, are you willing to take a job outside of your primary field? Yes, no. About 75% said yes. Are you willing to work weekends on a new or different job opportunity? Almost 50%, say 49. Work a second shift, 45% said yes. Are you willing to work rotating shifts? little more than 30, about 32%. And then willing to work at third shift, about 27%. So more than a quarter of the folks that we surveyed, again, of the entire available labor pool here, we'll get into some subsets in a second, indicate that they are willing to work the third shift for a new or different job opportunity. And that, I would assume, would be interesting for folks to know the percentage of folks willing to do some of these things. This pattern here, I see sometimes people ask how this compares to other river basins. This is a pretty consistent pattern. Willing to work outside the primary field usually has the most yeses. Third shift, well, actually, we have not asked third shift until this study, so I can't answer that one. But rotating shifts, now weekends, rotating shifts, and second shifts sort of jumping around a little bit from basin to basin. Now, again, the percentages aren't too far off from these two. Anyway, it's a bit different than some lake basins. Okay, then another consideration is willingness to commute. Here we ask the question, how many minutes are you willing to commute one way for a new or different job opportunity? They give us the minutes, we enter it in the computer, and then we aggregate it and come up with these numbers here. We do ask in the survey for those people working how many minutes they currently commute. We do ask for people that are working what the current wage is, or what the current salary is. They divide that by 2080 to come up with an hourly rate. We do that. I don't present that information in the study. I do that for a check, two things. I ask about current wage or salary, so that by the time we get to the desired wage and salary, the folks already have that in their mind what they currently earn. I think that avoids the wild speculation of, oh, I'd expect to earn $1 million at my new job or something, and they're earning maybe 30,000 or so. And I think it works because we don't get these wild numbers when we ask what their desired wage would be. Or, yeah. The other thing too with the minutes willing to commute, once they get in their mind how many minutes they currently commute, that helps them answer the question later of how many they're willing to commute. We don't get wild numbers there either. So not only for that reason, but I also am able to check responses to see how our methods are doing. And yes, I do see some variation between what people currently earn and what they would expect to earn in a new job, which makes sense. Often people change jobs for more money. Sometimes, however, I will see folks that earn a certain salary and they are looking for work or interested in a new job, and they are actually willing to take a little bit less, which indicates to me that they are probably pretty desperate to get out of that job. Most folks are, let's say someone earns 30, they're currently $30,000 a year, they're willing to take, they would expect to earn about 32 or 33, not 30 and then 60. It does happen once in a while, but for the most part, it's a small increase. Okay, and then with minutes willing to commute, same thing. We see a very strong correlation between current minutes to commute and willing to commute. Okay, so do I think these numbers are pretty valid? Yes, I think they are because of the number of different checks we put in. So we have about, of this available labor pool in the Jefferson County labor basin, almost 100% are willing to commute 15 minutes for a new, one way for a new job. Again, not surprising, most of us will commute about 15 minutes. Right here, 98%. Then about 80% will commute 30 minutes one way for a job, which actually is a little higher, I believe, than some labor basins I've looked at. But okay, 45 minutes for a job, commute 45 minutes one way for a job, about 36% suggest they will do that. And then 18% will commute 60 minutes one way for a job. And then we do have respondents that indicate 90 minutes, 120 minutes, but it does really drop off quickly after about 60 minutes, which makes sense. I think most people probably prefer not to travel more than 45 or so for a one way, but it does indicate you have a lot of people out there willing to commute at least half an hour. And I mentioned last time up in Dodge, I think these are pretty conservative numbers on the occupation, the commute minutes. Someone indicates that they're willing to commute 30 minutes for a job. I would imagine they're probably willing to commute 35. Once you're in the car, making them drive, you probably go a few more minutes. So I think those numbers could be maybe inched up a little bit. Okay, now we have available labor pool by wage. And not surprising, as wages go up, you have a larger number of people in the available labor pool. Again, these are questions we just asked. They were open-ended responses. We asked about the current wage, asked a bunch of questions, and then what wage would you expect to earn in a new or different job? So I actually have desired wage here. Nope, I do have expected wage. Ah, good. In the report, I say desired wages, and really it's expected. We asked them, what wage would you expect at a new job? So then we type in the responses and graph them here. So this is just an open-ended response. So about a quarter, a little more than a quarter, are willing to work, would expect to earn $15 an hour at a new or different job. And, hold on. Type one there. Yep. Obviously, 26% is not both 100,000 and 60. So I have a mistake there, but so that's incorrect. I do believe that $25 an hour is about 60%. I was asked last time how these compare to other places, and I do think that in other labor basins, the percentage of folks available for work at $25 an hour would be a little higher. This means here that we have about 60% available here, right? 40% gave us a higher number. Often in other labor basins, 40% would probably be about here. But okay, we live in a manufacturing area, so maybe wages, expected wages are a little higher. But I do need to fix that. Vicki, I apologize. There's some, I could probably do the math here, but I won't stop and do it. That's a little bit wrong. The 26% doesn't surprise me though. That's consistent with the study I had heard. Okay, then let's see. Next slide. Desired benefits. Now these are questions. We asked yes, no for each one. We asked folks if each one of these would be an important consideration for taking a new or different job. And again, yeses are scored here, so a little more than 90%. Yep, indicated good salary or hourly pay would be an important consideration for a new job. Not surprising, good salary or hourly pay is generally on top of the bar charts here. That has changed over time. Probably 10 years ago, health benefits seem to be up on the top. But now, salary seems to be consistent across the top. Here we have good salary or hourly pay, good retirement benefits, on-the-job or paid training, good vacation benefits, good health benefits, flexible hours of flex time. All of those scored at least 75% or above, meaning 75% of the available labor pool indicated these would be important benefits for a new or different job opportunity. We also asked about good education assistance, transportation assistance, and child care assistance. Those receive, I say they receive less support. Basically, fewer people said they would be an important consideration for a new or different job. Again, these are all mutually exclusive. Someone could have said yes to all of them or no to all of them. Well, it should be understood they individually, as questions, they don't relate to one another. They're just yes, no, all the way across. Now this is a table which shows the numbers I just showed you over here on this side. Benefits, important to change a job. So again, a little more than 90% good salary, hourly pay. That was on the top of the bar chart. The next column are benefits currently offered by their employers. So the first column is everybody in the available labor pool. Working, not working, these would be an important consideration for a job, yes, moving on. Here, these would be, does your employer provide these benefits? So it's only the working age, only the working folks here. So we see that the number one benefit, good salary and hourly pay for a new or different job, again, not surprising, for available labor pool members. And 82.5% of the working available labor pool members say they receive a good salary or hourly pay. So Okay, the folks that responded to the survey that are currently employed and are looking for available indicate that 82% of them indicated their employers do provide them a good salary. The column on your left, your right, the difference, I just did some math, took the first column minus the second column. So on good salary and hourly pay, we see a difference of 9.1%. That just means that 9.1% of the folks responding to the question indicated that that is an important benefit for those seeking employment over those that receive that benefit. Okay, not surprising, right? If somebody indicates to us that they are, well, this includes people who are not working too, right? This non-workers and workers all available. These are just workers that are available. But it does indicate those that are looking for work. There's a difference of 9.1% versus those that are employed. So maybe a bulk of those 9.1%ers are not employed. Could be. They're not employed, and I guess good salary and hourly pay would be very important. Or more importantly, are things down below, like flex time and flexible hours. Here we have 74%, almost 75% indicating that flex time and flexible hours are important considerations for a new job. Here we have folks that are working, say that 61%, 62% of their employers provide flexible hours. A difference of 13.2 indicates to me that, okay, that might be something employers might want to look at, is providing flexible hours, because fewer employers seem to be providing those to their employees than desired by employees. Flip side, 53.7%, so 54% of the folks surveyed indicate that their employers provide good educational assistance. 35% roughly indicated that those would be important benefits for a new or different job. So, for whatever reason, maybe the employers have done a good job of providing education benefits for folks, and maybe it's possibly the time to focus on a different area. Again, I'm just providing information to you. You do with it what you will, but that's almost 20% difference. It's kind of jumped out at me. Child care is interesting. I won't go into a long story about this, but we've done a lot of research on tried to do a lot of labor study research on child care as a benefit. And every community we go to indicates it's a problem, and I believe it because I have kids. And when they were little, child care was an extreme issue. But when we survey people about would child care benefits be important to you for a new or different job, it's always on the bottom of the list. Always. And I think what happens here is when child care issues are important, they're very important. So when you're looking for child care and it's important to you, we do pick up some of those folks in the survey, but once those child care issues are solved, that issue kind of evaporates from their memory. So we survey them later on, meaning they're older, or they have child care issues resolved. It doesn't show up in the survey. I don't know a way to actually test that theory, but that's my theory. Okay, now we are moving to one subset of the study is the necessary commute time. And this is just something I think is interesting and possibly helpful for you. Basically, we do have the zip code of the respondents. They're talking to us on the phone, we know what zip code they're from, it comes in the sample. Boom, we know where they live. We also know what the zip code is for the center of the labor basin, which is Jefferson, the city of Jefferson, right? So we know that zip code. So basically, we can do some math. And so we can map out how many minutes, what the commute time is from the zip code of residence to the zip code of the center of the basin. There we go. Sometimes the words don't come out. So we know the distance, or the number of minutes, I should say, number of minutes it would take. We also have in the survey data the number of minutes they're willing to commute one way for a job. So if somebody actually is willing to commute 30 minutes one way for a job, and they live, say, 15 minutes away from the center of the basin, they would be included in this subset, which we call within the necessary commute time. Somebody that lives 30 minutes away from the center of the basin and indicates that they are only willing to travel 15 minutes one way for a job, would not be in this subset. Now, why the center of the basin? We know that it's unlikely you're going to expand or provide an employer right in the center of the labor basin. Well, it's just the best we could do to come up with a way to kind of address that issue. We realize people work here in the labor basin and travel here for employment or job. And it does kind of give us an idea of a subset of the available labor pool that fall within those guidelines. And I think that is valuable to a certain extent. It doesn't answer everything, but I think it might help a little bit to understand how many folks, again, fall within that necessary commute time to the center of the basin, meaning they're probably willing to travel to other areas of the basin if we were to do that sort of research too. So here we have wage expectations, and again, the numbers are smaller because this is a subset of the available labor pool. Also, the percentages change a little bit. So we have about 20% of the folks in this subset indicating they're willing to earn $15 or work for $15 an hour. Like I said, commute time there, I meant to say money, dollar per hour. About 35%, $20 an hour, and 48% at $25 per hour. Let me jump to the next slide here. We have a map. Now, here's a map of those folks, of that subset of those within the necessary commute time. Again, we have their zip code, so we map them. And these are zip codes of residents, and so you do see how it shrinks a bit, right? We did have more darker colors a little bit further out, I believe, in the previous map of the entire available labor pool. Here we have a more concentrated group. And again, in a way, duh, because we're measuring to the center of the basin in commute time, but it does kind of give you an idea of the hardcore pocket of people looking for work. I'm not sure, but a group of folks that are sort of centered around the area that are available for work. I guess that's the important part. We do have quite a number of people that are located around the center of the labor basin available for work or looking for work. Okay. Now I'll look at the other subset, those in manufacturing, those that are interested in manufacturing. And I'll start off with looking at this group here, which we saw already, the folks that indicated to us that they are willing to take a job in manufacturing. Warm here, just me here. So we're looking at those folks. And so that subset, I broke down, here's some demographic information, ages, et cetera, for that subset of, again, people looking, interested, willing to take a job in manufacturing. Sorry, stumbling for numbers. The range is 18 to 66. The mean and median are 49 and 50, so a little different from before, still around the same age. Now, the percentage of males and females changed quite a bit from the last slide, which was the entire available labor pool. Here we have about 67% of these folks are male, and about a third are female. Again, is manufacturing still a male-dominated field? Probably so, so probably reflects that. And then about more than a third have bachelor's degrees or above. Almost 60% have associate's degrees or above. A good solid 75% or more have at least some college. So again, that kind of gives you a breakdown of those folks, a subset of folks that indicate to us that they are interested in working in a manufacturing job of some type. And then we asked, again, similar kind of, well, we use the same, we did follow up with some questions. Let me back up. For this subset, here's a bar graph of those different considerations for employment. Willing to take a job outside the field, work weekends, second shift, rotating shifts, and third shift. Now, that pattern's not too different, I don't believe, from the previous slide, but this does focus on only those folks that indicate they are interested in manufacturing, so I thought it was important to show that in the report. And again, we have commute minutes. Again, for those folks indicating desire to work in manufacturing, and about 83% will travel up to 30 minutes one way per job, which is slightly higher than the previous slide for the entire available labor pool. or back to the entire availability. And then 21% at 60 minutes, or up to 60 minutes. So that was a little bit higher than the entire ARP, a few percentage points higher. So people that are interested in working in manufacturing are willing to commute a little further than the entire available labor pool. And here we have benefits for, again, this subset of folks interested in manufacturing. If you remember correctly, on-the-job training was pretty high, but I don't believe it was in second place. Retirement benefits were, I believe. But, so we see that on-the-job training seems to be a little more important for folks interested in manufacturing. Flexible hours is still up there a ways, 70%. And we have the 3 on the bottom here. But I do see, we see a little bit of a change in some of the categories of it. And this is desired wages. This shows desired wages for those folks interested in manufacturing. And about 66% are willing to work for $25 or more, which means 34% would be desiring higher wages. And off the top of my head, I can't remember how this compares to the entire available labor pool, but we'll probably see some differences, and it does make some sense. There would be different differences. This is a subset of those folks interested in manufacturing. Now, we did ask some more specific questions of folks. It wasn't just a lot of general questions, very specific questions. Are you willing to work in manufacturing in Jefferson County? Yes or no? And we had you see that 57% of the folks of those folks indicating they're willing to work in manufacturing, we asked the question, okay, are you willing to work in manufacturing in Jefferson County? Almost 60%, 57% said yes, so a large chunk of folks there. Then we followed up with questions about, okay, to work in manufacturing in Jefferson County, would you be willing to work the day shift? Yes, no. What wage would you expect to earn working in the day shift in a manufacturing job in Jefferson County? So very specific type questions here. Day shift, and then what wages, second shift, and then what wages, third shift, and then what wages. So these are open-ended responses to the wages, right? And then I just graphed them here. And two things I want to point out. We do seem to have folks willing to work, folks indicating working the second shift and third shift. Let me flip that around. Folks indicating that they're willing to work the day shift seem to be okay with accepting, percentage-wise, lower wages down here than those looking for second shift jobs or third shift jobs. But it's a little hard to interpret because simply more folks ended up saying yes to the day shift job, right? That's why the blue line's really primarily on top, simply more people in there. But if you examine the slopes of the angle, the lines here, you see we do see a jump here, right? But we also see an increase in the red here, and then an increase in the green here. Well, I'm not overanalyze it, but there's some differences there, but primarily blue line's on top because there's simply more people in that little bucket. Now, here's the mean and median for those different shifts. Again, we asked them if they'd be willing to work a second shift or night shift, second shift, day shift, second shift, or third shift in manufacturing in Jefferson County, and at what wages. So these are the mean and median for those. So we have $25 roughly per hour for a day shift job as the mean. The median is 20. When you have the mean higher than the median, that means there's some numbers higher than 25, of course. So the mean gets kind of pulled upward. So you might want to focus on the median. That might be a better measure here, but both anyway. Second shift, 26, almost 27, and 22. So again, going up in price. Those folks willing to work second shift and third shift do expect to earn more money, I think. Makes sense? And then third shift, $29 an hour and $23 an hour. So we do see some patterns there. Then we followed up with some questions about, for those folks indicating they did not want to work in manufacturing, Oops. Yeah. We asked them why they're not involved with manufacturing. Not surprisingly, most folks indicated that they simply prefer something else. You know, makes sense, right? And then another group of folks indicated that manufacturing does not match their skills or education levels. Or, I shouldn't say that, I should say skills or educational background, because you'll notice that some folks indicated that they actually lack the skills for manufacturing. So, not necessarily above or below the skills necessary. They just don't match the skills in education. Now, a number of folks indicated that it was sort of unpleasant work or boring, repetitive, and these kind of things. We were discussing earlier how this is probably a perception out there. Well, okay, any job could probably be boring for a few people. We'll give it a get. But I think the perceptions about manufacturing are like those big factories in the 50s or whatever, and just sitting on a assembly line. I don't think that's the case anymore. And so this might be a perception you're battling to get workers here. Some folks indicated the reason they're not interested in manufacturing is they're too old or the work's too strenuous. Okay, that might be true, might not be, I don't know. And then a handful indicated they had worked in manufacturing before, had a negative experience, don't want to do it again. Okay, can't make everybody happy. And then a number of folks indicated that they don't have enough knowledge about manufacturing to tell us whether or not, to tell us why they didn't want to take a manufacturing job. And that, again, might be something to look at for educational purposes and educate the population. So anyway, it kind of gives you an idea of what's on people's minds that indicate to us that they don't want to work in manufacturing at the present time. And then we followed up with some questions about barriers to working in Jefferson County. And we started off with, so these are the folks that indicated to us that they're interested in working manufacturing. And then we follow up with, would you be willing to work in Jefferson County? And they said no. And then we followed up with, okay, is transportation a barrier for you for working in Jefferson County? And about 56% said no. A little more than half said that was not an issue. And then we followed up with, all right, can you give us some other reasons that, what are some other barriers to working in Jefferson County? And these are open-ended responses, collapsed into categories, and I pretty much grouped them into 3 categories. And we have commute time, distance, cost. So even though they indicated that transportation wasn't a barrier up here, they did indicate it's an issue down there. So again, it might be perceptions or whatnot, but it does seem that transportation is an issue, is what I'm trying to say. And then some other issues there about the area. So these are items that I collapsed into categories from the open-ended responses. We didn't have a lot, obviously, when we go from the available labor pool to the folks that indicate that they are interested in manufacturing. It's a subset. Then we have another subset of would you be willing to work in Jefferson County, right? People say no, it's a smaller subset. And we ask these open-ended responses, and not everybody provides them to us. So it kind of gets down to not a lot of people, but enough people to suggest that maybe there's a perception of transportation, or maybe it is an issue. I don't know. Something to think about. Okay, I think I blasted through everything that I have. I'll be more than happy to go into more detail. Want? I'll be happy to, though. I get a little carried away with these numbers, so apologize for that, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Yes?
Was there something in any of this that was atypical of your normal surveys?
Well, surprising a little bit. I did mention that there's a larger percentage of folks in the available labor pool, meaning a larger percentage of folks interested in a new or different job or looking than not. Now again, it wasn't off the charts. It was, I think we looked at 48% of the folks that we surveyed were not looking or available, and typically it's a little more than 50%, so that's something. I did notice that we had a lot more folks interested in manufacturing and warehousing. I think I highlighted that earlier. highlighted on that one chart with the 4 groups. Typically, most folks, well, this is not surprising to me. Most people have experience in data entry or telephone work, and then professional office environment, and then these kind of jump around a little bit, whether more people are here or here, and sometimes we have a few other answer options. Again, this is, did I mention this before? This is ordered by have experience, right? That's why it's this way. If it was ordered by we'll take a job, and we clearly see it go like, so it's just ordered this way. But it didn't surprise me. This actually is typically what I'm trying to get at here, eventually, is that most often fewer people are willing to do a job than have already done that job. This is pretty normal. This actually is a bit of a drop off here, but it's usually here. That's about right. But then, warehousing distribution, typically I'd expect that red line to be almost even or a little bit lower. And manufacturing, typically about down there. So that did jump out at me as, wow, we have more people interested in manufacturing job and warehousing job than I would expect. As again, in the survey, do you have experience doing this? Yes, no. Completely different question. Would you do this? Would you take a job in this field? Would you take a job in manufacturing? Yes, no. So that jumped out at me as a bit of a surprise. I do think that some, let's see. Again, I mentioned gender a little earlier. Not too surprising that there were slightly more males in the entire available labor pool than females. It wasn't that much to really be too surprising, but usually it's 50% or slightly higher females than males. This is a little bit different. What I thought was interesting, but of course once I thought about it for a minute, not too surprising, the number of males versus females, the percentage of males versus females interested in manufacturing. Now I would imagine in today's modern world, there's a lot of women working in manufacturing, of course, but I do think there's probably still a bit more males than females in that field, and so therefore women are less likely to say yes than males are, or be aware of the job, I should say. The other retirement benefits, yeah, that's a little, again, not earth-shattering information, but typically, it's usually in the top 5 or so, like top 5 or so. But here we have retirement benefits a little higher than other labor basins, but my experience is not here in Wisconsin. My experience is doing these studies in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma. This is the first time we've done one in Wisconsin. So next time we do one up here, if we do, I'll have a better way to measure these things, right?
Is our age group?
That's what I'm thinking. I wonder if we have, well, let me tell you, okay, one thing is that survey research, just the way it goes, we often end up with fewer younger people, no matter what survey you do, than we would hope to get. That's just the way it goes across the board. But I do think we had a slightly higher median age, not a lot, just a couple of years, than other labor basins. And I wonder if that is contributing to why we have retirement benefits as high as they are. Again, I'm making more of a deal than it really is. It's usually in the top 5. It's just a little bit surprising it's in the top 2.
If we take Brian's question further, and compared to the other locations that you've done these basin studies, if you were an existing company here or you were a site selector looking to locate here, just in the narrow range of what you focus, not quality of life, not infrastructure, transportation, availability of clean, pumpable, potable water, just in the labor itself, how would we compare to the other locations that you've done this? When you stick a pin in the map, is our available labor pool at a competitive wage enough to attract site selectors in comparison to the other ones you have studied? And I shouldn't say enough to attract,
right.
Competitively attractive compared to the other locations that you've looked at?
Give you a short answer and longer answer.
I'll take the short one.
Short answer is, this graph kind of tells it right here. I don't believe so.
You don't
Because
believe what?
that people are expecting higher wages. From our survey research here, we have,
So you're saying that this graph would be pitched downward in Oklahoma?
I would see, doing this study in Kansas,
Yes.
Oklahoma, we probably see, instead of 26% here, $15 an hour, we probably see maybe 30%.
Okay, pitched downward.
And instead of 26% at $20 an hour, we probably see 30 or more percent. No, 35% possibly. And then $25 an hour or more would be probably,
Okay,
70%.
that's half the question. That's what they're willing to work for. Then the other question is, are they willing to work? How are we doing on available labor?
Well, that's why-
As also along with the rate that they'd be willing to work.
that is a different issue, because I do see, again, more folks indicating that they are looking for work or available than in other labor basins.
Okay.
Percentage-wise, again, it's not jump off the roof time, but it's basically a few percentage points higher here overall than other labor
Okay,
basins.
so the summary to that answer is yes, we have the available workers, they'll just want a higher wage than comparatively to other basins you've looked at.
That's correct.
Okay.
I also think, again, flex time is one of those that is always kind of up there. It was, in some of the graphs I remember looking at, it seemed to be a little more important than in some other labor basins. Now, that's a tricky one. Earlier today, we asked a question about how the wages, for example, compare to ages, wages and ages. How old are the folks here? And again, I don't have that answer right off the bat. I would guarantee, however, that there would be a strong correlation between age of the respondent and desired wages, which makes sense because you get older, you need, probably raise your families, you need more money. But I'm thinking about doing some analysis on age groups to see how that compares. So we do a group of, say, 18 to 25 and look at either wages or, probably wages in the manufacturing sector. And then different groups, see if that can help out. Because, where are they going with that conversation? Because I do think you have, compared to other basins, you have a good group of available labor pool is solid. There's just some, the survey research indicates there's maybe some areas that you can look at. So, for example, wages, which again, no kidding, but maybe this is a point where we do see the numbers here indicate that that really is an important area for this, important issue for this area. And flex time may be another one that might be something to look at. You may do that already. I didn't want to highlight too much on the benefits. We asked them. They indicate that some of those are more important than others for employment. I trust them to say that. I don't know how much, I don't know what it looks like on the employer side. Maybe you are providing a lot of benefits. Maybe you
You
can't.
want to look at Wisconsin's labor participation rate, because that traditionally has been higher than most of the other states. That may be what's making this a huge. I think you find that.
Well, actually, maybe, but, well, it could be. So you're saying that the participation rate in employment is higher than other states. We may be seeing that then, because people are,
In the Midwest, traditionally,
Yeah.
outside of Chicago is higher than in other sections. Wisconsin tends to be Wisconsin and Iowa.
Okay.
And the West.
And when you look specifically at the two counties, at Dodge and Jefferson County, Dodge County has a higher labor participation rate than Jefferson County.
Okay.
But it was interesting to compare the desired wages of workers in manufacturing, right?
Yes, that's true.
In Dodge
That was-
versus Jefferson, because they're not the same.
Right.
They are different. And very specifically, and when we presented this in Dodge County this morning, we actually did have employers in the room who said, you know, our wages are probably higher because our costs of living are higher. And that's, you know, reality.
that's right, we did see differences here, especially in the graphs.
Yeah, because they're, those numbers are much higher in the Dodge County study than they are in the
Right.
Jefferson County study. Interestingly enough.
Yes. Okay, anything else? Now, this is all, the executive summary for these reports is on your website.
Yes, they are. Again, take a little sheet with you so you know where to go to get this information. As Mike said, there's a couple little typos in the report, so we'll make sure that those are fixed before you request them via email. But the executive summaries are on the website right now. And then if you want the full studies, and there are 3 full studies, but it'll give you the opportunity to really look at the differences. And some of the differences are very interesting between Dodge County and Jefferson County. So you may want to do that. But I'd like to thank you for coming today and to join me in thanking Mike for coming up and presenting his research to us.
My contact information there if you want.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can reach him there, but clearly, we have available workers in the area. I mean, we've documented it, it's there, it's real. I've used this before as an economic developer to attract businesses and to help my businesses grow in place. So I don't want any of you to tell me there's no one to hire. I don't want to hear it. There are people to hire. It's just they want more money than you're offering. So if no other questions, thank you for coming. Have a good afternoon.